welcome to After Class with Mr. Katz. Today we have Mr. Katz. Welcome, Mr. Katz.
Thanks for having me.
We're very happy to have him here, and we are going to just get to know more about him. Okay, so the first question, why did you choose to be a science teacher?
Yeah, science is definitely always something I've been interested in. From the time I was a kid, I wanted to be a veterinarian. Later, I even thought about like dentistry. So when I went to school, I went into biology. I knew it was like my favorite subject, and that I wanted to do something with that. And then kind of towards the end of school there, I found myself just like really enjoying the process of like just like tutoring and like helping people out, because I was like a tutor towards the end of college, and so that really is kind of what turned me on to teaching and thinking that that might be a career for me. And so I kind of followed up with grad school to get teacher certification, and that's kind of how becoming a science teacher happened for me.
Awesome. Well, my next question was going to be, if you weren't a science teacher, what would you be doing? But it seems like this job, you've just like have been wanting to do it for a while. So it seems like, is there like any other thing that you would want to do or no?
I mean, I can definitely see a lot of jobs out there for me. I think that at the end of the day, you want a job that is fulfilling. You want it to, help you take care of like aspects like paying the bills and things like that. But you also want it to like have, something that you are, just something that you enjoy. And so from that aspect, I think that's where teaching really fills a lot of those, checks a lot of those boxes, because, coming in and working, kids every day that are excited about science, there's really nothing better than that. And then, plus you get summers off, so it's, it's great. But definitely, other jobs that I've, kind of entertained the idea of. I'm definitely someone who likes to like build and tinker with things. So like, engineering's kind of always been something that I, thought like, if I wasn't teaching, like what other career might I want to get into? And probably probably some sort of engineer.
Oh, cool. That makes sense, because I remember in freshman year, you had like a lot of labs and just general like hands-on activities. So does that stem from like your love of like hands-on like stuff?
Sure. Yeah. And sometimes that can be a challenge for me, trying to think up like good labs and things like that. More so like in my daily life, I would say the labs are really just projects, right? Like even just around the house. The house is really just one giant problem to solve. In general, there's always things going on there. So even like just getting into like a little bit of plumbing, a little bit of electrical work, like stuff like that has been fun. Just to learn about it and kind of try my hand at. And the nice part is, if it doesn't go well, I can always just call a professional and come in and fix it and help me out. But for the most part, I would say, that's really where those experiences in the lab and stuff are gonna like pay off down the line. Is that it just gives you some experience to kind of show you where your strengths are, and and kind of give you some knowledge as to like how to go about problem solving, and then really all the problems that you face later in life are just ones that you kind of just have to take step by step and figure out along the way. So that lab experience, I think, definitely helps with that.
Wow, awesome. Well, branching off from the topic of jobs in general, do you have any advice for our underclassmen at Charter, who I'm sure are like starting to think of their future and their career?
Yeah, I would definitely say, for the freshmen coming in, just really take advantage of all that Charter has to offer, and just try to make the most of every day. I think that with every class comes unique challenges and unique material that you're learning. So really just kind of making the most of that time, so that when you leave at the end of the day, you can say, I really invested in myself today, right? You think about the idea of like investing. No better way to invest than in yourself, and just kind of like the knowledge that you have, because that's really something that no one can ever take from you, right? What you learn and what you know, is something that sticks with you and really kind of pays off down the line. And there is so much opportunity here, I think, opportunities to get involved with clubs, to meet new people. So just kind of like, not being afraid to branch out, or maybe get outside of your comfort zone and try out some new things too, I think would be, probably the two things I would advise freshmen to do, is just, try that out.
Awesome. I'm sure a lot of our freshmen would really just appreciate that advice, because I remember in my freshman year it was really hard to sort of step out of my comfort zone because it's such a new environment. But like in sophomore year it kind of like got better. But like yeah, in freshman year if you start out just with the mindset of like embracing like the uncomfortable and going outside of your comfort zone, it's gonna make you really successful, and it's just really good. But yeah, talking about your passion about science, what do you think are like the most underrated contributions in science, like that people don't really talk about but are actually just extremely vital and important?
Yeah. So thinking about, I guess, like the history of science, I think is probably where some of the underrated stuff, for me is, because, you think about some of the things happening today. It's just so like, cutting edge, and there's so much technology involved that it's like, I feel like sometimes the things that happened back in history somewhat get lost, right? Some of just the fundamentals, things that people spent their whole lives trying to study just because that technology piece wasn't there, right? That it was so difficult to study these things. I mean, thinking about just some of the things that like Isaac Newton studied and put together, it's just kind of amazing to think about just how accurate some of those measurements were, given the limited technology. So I think really anyone that was doing science in the 16th and 17th centuries, or before that, I mean even in the 18th century, I mean it's amazing some of the work that they did given just the the basic technology that we had. And I think that really those were like the some of the pioneers, and I'm just glad that at that point we really had a process of like recording information so it could like carry on from one generation to the next, because I think that's really where science advanced, was like actually having libraries and like having the ability to like share information among scientists.
Yeah, for sure. And now connecting like the past, like Isaac Newton and those people, to more like present future stuff, do you have any predictions about what the future of science would look like?
Yeah, I think the future of science, at least one topic that I think is really interesting, just given the fact that like there's a lot of need for healthcare in our world, right? I mean, I think the pandemic kind of highlighted just inequalities in healthcare and access to certain medical help and stuff like that. I do think that it's interesting to think about maybe where the future might go with like genetics, just because it's something that early in this century we were able to sequence the human genome, right? And that was like a huge milestone. And at that point it was really expensive, but now it's like relatively cheap to sequence a genome. I mean, it's like a couple $100, and seeing as how DNA is really the key to all of the physical structures that we have in our bodies, right, and the chemical structures that we produce via proteins. I do think that like there is a future where maybe some of that genetics could really play a key role, right, combining genetics with technology and all the computing power that we have today to really seek out where within our power we're able to find cures for diseases, right, and find ways to eliminate some of these diseases that really just cause a lot of trauma for some people. And part of that, though, I think part of the difficulty there is that the idea of like giving up your genome is even more private than your fingerprint or any other information. I would say it's like the ultimate invasion of privacy, right? So I think that there are some steps that would need to take place. Like there would need to be trust between, let's say, people and insurance companies, that if their sequence was out there and it was known that they had some sort of like genetic traits that made them more likely to have certain diseases, that that wouldn't be taken advantage of, right? That those people wouldn't be charged more money or something like that, right? I mean, we would have to look at it really from like a large scale perspective of like, we just want what's best for, the health of, people on this planet. And, so I do think genetics really, I could see a future where genetics plays a huge role in just kind of like finding cures to diseases that we've never even been able to touch before. So
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited to just see like what scientists can come up with. And like as a senior, like Victoria and I, since we're going to college, I'm sure we're going to be doing like research and stuff. So we'll like get a closer look, and it's just so exciting to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, now now for some fun questions. How did you and Mrs. Katz meet?
Yeah, so we met in Trolley Square. We were both living there, so
Oh, cool.
Somewhat locally, I would say a lot of people after college, if they're staying local in the area, they look at Trolley just because it's like kind of like a town for that age group there. And yeah, just kind of met through a mutual friend there, and just really found that we had a lot in common. I mean, both teachers, and so I mean more than that, but yeah, I just think we had a lot of good conversations at the beginning, and just really hit it off there. So
Awesome. How do you feel about being a dad?
being a dad is probably one of the best experiences that I've had. My little guy's about a little over a year now, and the first year is tough for sure. But yeah, I mean, having time to take parental leave with him was just an amazing experience. Every day I just looked at it as just wanting to just make the most of every day, right? Just kind of wake up and what adventures are we going to go on today? And by adventures I just mean like maybe a small bike ride, or even just like a walk around the backyard or something. But it's just a time period that everything happens so quickly. The changes, and just the new sounds, the new just things that they're able to do. So it's been a great experience, and yeah, it's definitely one that I kind of took time to make sure that I was like at a certain place in my life, so that I could be able to support my kid in a way that I wanted to. I think that planning aspect definitely helped. I'm a planner. I don't know if
I could tell.
Yeah, so definitely like planning and like getting ready for that moment, and kind of having everything ready for that. I think definitely helped make it a more enjoyable experience. Whereas just because it's a lot, right? It's a lot of work. So you just want to be ready to put that work in, because your kids depend on it. So.
Yeah, for sure. So, have you always been like a planner? Because I've had you in freshman year, and like I remember all your like lessons being pretty like structured, organized, and just efficient in general. So, is this something that you had to like sort of learn to do, or were you just like not always like this?
I definitely like growing up. I definitely had like organizing tendencies, I guess you could say. Like
Okay.
I was definitely one to like clean my room even without my parents asking me to, kind of thing. It was just like, I like to keep, a neat space. For me, it helps, if I'm able to organize the physical space around me, it helps me to like organize the mental space in my head too, I guess, and like, free up distractions, I guess. So yeah, I've definitely always been a planner, and I just think, for me, I'm usually, like in my experience, I'm happier with the outcomes when I've had time to think and had time to plan. I try to think through, what are the potential outcomes, how can I, and I think it does relate to science. I think science and learning about science over the years has like kind of just fed that personality trait even more, to the point where maybe I even plan things too much sometimes. But no, I think it just kind of, it goes hand in hand. I think it's maybe what drew me to science, was that idea of like organizing and things like that.
Wow. So it seems like science is just, it all comes down to science, guys. Science for the win. Go Charter.
Yeah, science is definitely cool.
We're very proud to be a science person at Charter. It's very good. So why do you have a bunch of cans of chicken soup in your room? Does he still have chickens?
I don't. They would
Oh,
have been up there if I
no.
did. So well, like I said, I'm a planner, and so one thing that I like to plan ahead for is the potential that I might forget my lunch, right? Or like that I might just like be extra hungry one day. And so yeah, chicken soup in a can has a great shelf life. Except the irony there is that I guess I never forgot my lunch because I never ended up. I think I did eat like one or two of the cans, but I think I probably had like 6 of them in there. And it was funny, one day it was like the end of the school year, and I was like, oh, let me just check the expiration dates on these because I've had them for a while. And I looked and they had actually expired like a year or two ago. So I was like, so I finally ended up just tossing them there. But no, I mean, yeah, I just like to kind of have a backup plan there if I get really hungry one day. So
Yeah. So I think the main lesson learned is it doesn't hurt to be too prepared. It never hurts.
it doesn't.
It never hurts. All right, so what was high school Mr. Katz like? Ooh, this is interesting.
This is interesting. High school Mr. Katz was definitely still a planner, but probably a little bit more like spur of the moment type of person. Like, I would definitely say, if there was like, something going on, my friends invited me to something or wanted to go do something, I would just kind of be like, yeah, sure, let's go. Like a little bit more spontaneous. Now I'm definitely, it's like, let me, make sure that like, doing this is like I'm still able to like fulfill my responsibilities and things. Although I would say in general, I was probably pretty responsible. I mean, I would say, as far as like having a job and stuff, like I started working my freshman year.
Oh, wow.
Just for saving and things like that. And yeah, I mean, I know everybody does things differently, but my parents were definitely the type of parents to be like, if you want a phone, you got to get that and pay for it yourself. If you want a car, you got to get that. So for me, it was like, okay, I want those things, and I'm gonna have to work for them. And so I worked. Actually, Rita's was like my first job, so I worked at a Rita's in high school, and
Awesome.
towards the end, like I guess it was like junior and senior year, I was like manager there, and then I was like kind of tired of that by the time I graduated, so that's kind of when I like moved down to the beach and did some lifeguarding down there. But yeah, so it was definitely like, it was a lot of fun. I mean, I played soccer, I played lacrosse, I did swimming. I even did tennis one year just because I used to play with my dad a lot, and I was like, let me give this a shot. And that was fun. Yeah, so played a lot of sports. I still love to play a lot of sports and get outside and do activities and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely like a little more carefree, I would say. I think just that comes with age, right? I mean, as you grow up, there's more responsibilities. There's people who depend on you. I mean, any more like spontaneous things, just not as likely because it's like, well, I got to make sure my son's doing all right, and make sure that he's taken care of before I just run off to play around at golf or something like that. So.
Yeah, and I'm sure like all your grades were good and everything, right?
Yeah. My high school was not as challenging as charter. If anything, if I could redo my high school, I wish I would have, found a school more like charter that was more, challenging and things. Because I do think I was, somewhat, somewhat like bored and would, fill my time with things that, would have better been spent, like academically and like just kind of like preparing myself for college. Like when I got to college, that was definitely a big challenge freshman year in college, just kind of like acclimating to the amount of work and time involved there. But I definitely like I said, mentioned engineering stuff. I definitely like filled my free time with some projects and things. Like if I wasn't hanging out with friends, like maybe I was doing some things on my car, or like I don't know. My dad had like an old like Honda ATV that I like restored in high school because we had like a power mechanics pathway and stuff. So I did some of that. So I've got like a little bit of like a mechanical background, but yeah.
Oh, very cool, very cool. So let's wrap it up with just one more question.
Sure.
So, why is lobster your favorite font?
Lobster. All right. So interesting thing about lobster is I don't think I actually use lobster. I think it's Pacifico.
I'm so sorry.
But
oh my gosh.
it's okay. The reason I like Pacifico is because it's kind of like a cursive font, and really probably the main thing is that I like to have, I guess, like if I'm putting out worksheets and things, I like for them to be like unique or have like a unique font to them, just because number one, I think it makes it easier for my kids to like identify papers for my class, right? Like if they're like going through a book bag, you know, they can see it right at the top, and just, you know, even without reading it, they just see, you know, the font and know that it's from my class. And then, yeah, I think it just kind of like puts my own little spin on, you know, on worksheets and things like that, that it, you know, has that in there. So.
Oh, I didn't. I thought the answer would just be something like, oh, I like that it's pretty font. But that makes a lot of sense actually.
I'm a planner, right? So it's
feel
like,
like-
how can I help, you know, the kids? And I figured having something like that, and, you know, was unique would help them. So.
Awesome. Well, it was so great to learn so many things about you. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and yeah, I really enjoyed our interview here as well. So.
Awesome. Well, we'll see you next time.